Hey everyone, welcome. We'll just give one more minute and then we'll kick things off. Okay, let's get going. Good morning or afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kishore, and I'm part of the technical team at DBSync. Really glad to have you all here today.
Hi everyone, I'm Sufia. I work on the solution side at DBSync. So between the two of us, we are going to walk you through something we deal with literally every week with our customers. How do you actually get your data into Azure Synapse in a way that doesn't turn into a nightmare?
Exactly. And look, we know everyone here has varying backgrounds. Some of you might be data engineers who live in pipelines all day. Some of you might be more on the architecture side. Some might just be exploring what's out there. All of that is totally fine. We're just trying to keep this practical and not overly technical.
Right. Before we jump in, a couple of quick housekeeping things. We'll be going for about 45 to 50 minutes, and there will be a live Q&A at the end. So as you have questions, just drop them in the chat or the QA panel. We'll get to them.
We are recording this as well, so you'll get a link after. And yes, feel free to share your questions anytime. We love an engaged audience.
Okay, let's quickly go over what we are covering today. So we're going to start with why organizations even need a centralized data warehouse, because this is where most of the pain comes from. Then I'm going to walk you all through Azure Synapse specifically, what is it and how it's architectured.
Then we are going to get into the real meaty part, which is ingesting data. Because honestly, setting up Synapse is the easy part. Getting your operational data in there reliably, that's where things get interesting.
And then we'll do a live demo of DBSync replicating data into Synapse, and we'll wrap up with some best practices before Q&A.
Sounds good, Sophia. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, raise your hand or just type in the chat how many of you are working with more than 3 or 4 operational systems right now?
Yeah, I'm seeing a few SS there. This is incredibly common. You've got your CRM over here, maybe Salesforce or HubSpot. You've got your ERP somewhere else. You also got a product database, maybe some SaaS tools, internal applications, and they're all siloed.
And the problem isn't that those systems are bad. They are each really good at what they do. The problem is when your CFO wants a report that cuts across all of them, or your data team is trying to do customer lifetime value analysis, and the data is in 5 different places with 5 different schemas.
Yeah, you end up with fragmented reporting. People pulling numbers from different places and getting different answers in the same meeting, which is not fun.
Exactly. And this is not a small complete problem, by the way. We see this in enterprises too. Scale actually makes it worse.
So this is why data warehouses exist. At the core, a warehouse gives you one place where everything is consolidated. You can look at historical trends, you can do cross-reporting, and also analytics queries don't slam your production databases.
That last point is bigger than people think. Running heavy analytical queries against your live CRM or ERP is a great way to slow everything down for actual users. The warehouse gives you a clean, separate environment for all of that.
Yeah, the typical flow looks like what you see on the screen. Operating systems, operational systems down to an ingestion pipeline into the warehouse, and then your BI layer on top. Power BI, it can be Power BI, Tableau, or whatever you're using.
Right. And in 2025, this is what the modern analytics stack looks like. It's not that different from 5 years ago conceptually, but the tools and the platforms have gotten dramatically better, which is a good siege to Kishore talking about Synapse specifically.
Right. So Azure Synapse. Let me give you the honest version and not the marketing one. Right.
Um,
Synapse is Microsoft's answer to the modern cloud warehouse, and it's genuinely a strong platform. It combines warehousing, big data analytics, data ingestion, and distributed query processing in one service. That's actually meaningful because you don't have to stitch together three separate products.
All right. What we hear a lot from customers is they end up on Synapse either because they're already in the Azure ecosystem, which is a huge portion of enterprises, or because their BI team is using the Power BI and the integration between Power BI and the Synapse very tight.
Yeah, both are totally valid reasons. The platform is very solid. So under the hood, Synapse uses what's called massively parallel processing, MPP for short. What that means in practice is that your query doesn't run on one server. It gets distributed across multiple compute nodes, all that work in parallel.
Sure. So can you give people a feel for why that matters, Kishore?
Yeah, so imagine you have a billion row table. On a traditional single server database, a query on that table is serial. One server grading through all the rows. With MPP, you slice that table across different 60 nodes, and each node processes its slice, and the results come back together. It's dramatically faster for analytical workloads.
Yeah, that's also why Synapse doesn't feel like your typical SQL server. It's built for a different purpose.
Right. And this is the thing people sometimes miss. Synapse is phenomenal for analytics, columnar storage, distributed execution. It can handle massive data sets beautifully. But, and this is important, Synapse does not solve your ingestion problem.
Yeah, this is actually where we see a lot of problems or the projects that stall out. Teams get Synapse set up and then they realize, okay, now how do we actually get our data in here?
Exactly. The warehouse is ready, but the data isn't in it.
Okay, so let's talk about the ingestion problem, because this is honestly where most of the effort goes in a warehouse project, connecting to multiple databases, dealing with schema differences between systems, then figuring out how to incremental updates, like how to perform them, so you're not reloading everything every night, making sure you don't get duplicates.
Every one of those is its own rabbit hole. We have seen this from the customer side. What does it look like when teams try to do this themselves?
Yeah, it actually starts with someone writing a Python script to pull data from system A and then push it to Synapse, and that works for a while. But then someone adds system B to it, and then the schema in the system A changes and the script breaks. Then someone leaves the company and nobody knows how the script works. It snowballs.
Yeah, we call it pipeline depth. It's very real.
Yeah, the traditional ETL approach has a lot of overhead. You build custom scripts, you lay orchestration tools on top, and you're doing the transformations, and maintenance never really ends.
And to be fair, there's nothing inherently wrong with that approach. But for teams who wants to focus on analytics and insights rather than pipeline maintenance, it's a lot of way to carry on.
Right.
Replication gives you a cleaner model. Instead of complex ETL logic, you're focused on one thing: move data reliably from A to B continuously and accurately.
And the nice thing about a replication first approach, it simplifies the architecture. Your warehouse stays in sync with your sources without you having to babysit it.
Yeah, let's talk about two main strategies. The first is what we call a clean copy. Basically a full replication. You take everything from source A and put it in the warehouse. This is what you do when you're setting things up for the first time. You need a baseline.
And it's also what you fall back on if something goes wrong and you need to rebuild. Having a reliable, clean copy process is important.
Then once you have your baseline, you switch to incremental replication. Now, you're only capturing new records and changes, which means much lower load, faster sync cycles, and you can get close to near real-time analytics.
Yeah, that's right. And this is the mode most production warehouses run in day to day. You set up the initial load and then incremental keeps everything fresh.
Right. So that's the theory. Let's talk about how DBSync fits in here.
DBSync was built specifically for this problem. Multi-source replication, automated schema handling, incremental sync, the scheduling, monitoring, it's all in one place. So you don't have to build any of that yourself.
Yeah, and the use cases are pretty broad. You might be replicating from a SQL server or PostgreSQL database into Synapse. You might be pulling from a SaaS application. You might have a hybrid environment with one on-prem application and some cloud. DBSync can handle all of those.
Right. And one thing I want to call out, schema replication is a big deal. A lot of tools make you manually create your tables in the warehouse before you can start syncing, right? So DBThings reads your source and schema and creates the tables automatically so that you don't have to do it yourself.
Right, which if you ever had to manually translate a schema with 200 tables, you know why that matters.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat are probably nodding right now.
Okay, ready for the demo? Let's do it.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, everyone. Sufia is going to drive the demo, and I'll be providing commentary along the way. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go. We'll pick them up.
Okay. Here we go. So here is our DBSync product that can move your data from the SQL Server to Azure Synapse. So on the source page, I will be configuring all the SQL Server credentials by providing the host, the port, the username, and basically the credentials, along with the database and schema information. And once the configuration is done, I'll be able to test and save the credentials as well. Moving on to the target, here's where our Azure Synapse database credentials would be included. So here as well, I've provided the host, the port, and the other credentials, and the database and the schema information for this. Now let's move to the objects page. So here I will be performing a clean copy. And so here is a page where you'll be able to see all of the tables, and along with that, if there are any fields, and then all the field types will be displayed here. And if you want to include or exclude specifically any column, you can go ahead and do that and select it. So that column would be excluded. So this is the best part, right? You are able to see all of your tables as well as the fields, and you don't have to create these tables manually in your target, which is the Azure Synapse. This will be automatically picked up by DBSync and handled by DBSync. And I had run the clean copy, and for that, you can go ahead here and let's say you want to initially just see the schema. You can go ahead and update the schema, and then you want to run a clean copy. This is where your initial load will be picked up. And all of the records, be it like thousands of millions of records, will be picked up, and that would be processed within seconds, minutes, and hours based on the load. And once the clean copy is completed, you can go ahead with the source to DB, which is the incremental. This is where you can schedule your jobs, and then you don't have to, update perform the incremental sync every now and then. The scheduled job would handle that for you. So once the clean copy is run, I can also see the logs for it. So how many records were transferred, and then how many records were replicated, whether it was successful or there were any errors. All of that information will be displayed on this log page. You can also manually go and see if there are any errors to that stop the sync, but other than that, you will also get the time that it was completed, how much time it took. So all of this information is present on the screen. And you can also get notifications because, yes, it's a task that you have to remember and then come back and see, okay, the sync was completed or not. But then in order to avoid that, you can also get notifications, send this to your email, and then you'll be notified there as well. There are also the scheduled jobs that can start and set. You can run cron jobs, and then whenever there are new data that are coming from your source to target, that would be captured in your target. So this is pretty good, right?
Right. So this is important. So as you can see, DBSync is reading the actual source schema, not relying on you to define it. You have the source and you have the columns. So it maps correctly to the right type in Synapse, and things don't get nasty at a later stage. You also can have observability, so that's where you see what went wrong, what happened exactly at what times. You can pinpoint anything immediately based on the changes that are happening over time. And this is exactly what DBSync is built for and used to inject data to Synapse. So, and now switching back to the slides before we move any further. Yeah, so if you have any questions, we will take them up. But yes, um, first one is we'll also define some of the best practices going forward, which helps us set how things work with DBSync.
Okay, so before we go to the Q&A, let's run through a few things that we can see, and we can have it as best practices.
First one, define your object scope before you start. Sounds obvious, but you'll be surprised. Know which tables you actually need in the warehouse. Not everything in your operational database needs to be replicated. Focus on what analytics actually uses.
Then you can also monitor your jobs. You can set up alerts. Replication pipelines are usually pretty quiet, as we discussed, and then you might forget they're running until they aren't. So know about the failures before your users do. Yeah.
DBSync does a lot of that automatically. Schema additions get propagated, but you want to know the behavior upfront rather than discovered in the production database at a later point.
Yep. Couldn't agree more on that.
All right. Wrapping up before Q&A, key takeaways are Azure Synapse is a genuinely excellent platform for analytics warehousing, especially if you're in the Azure ecosystem. But Synapse by itself doesn't solve your data ingestion problem, and ingestion is usually where the complexity lives.
Replication, when done right, gives you automated data movement with a much lower maintenance burden than the other custom ETL pipelines. And DBSync takes that further by handling schema replication, incremental sync, scheduling, and monitoring, so you're not building that from scratch.
Right. All right. So it's Q&A time. This is my favorite part, Sufia. So what do you think we have got?
Um, yeah, let's see if anyone has any questions in the chat, we can respond to that.
Yeah.
Also, we can talk about the next few steps for any of the people to follow us.
Yeah, really appreciate everyone sticking with us through the whole session. Hopefully it was useful. A few next steps for you. If you want to try DBSync for your own Synapse project, head over to mydbsync.com. We've got a trial available and documentation that covers everything we showed today. And
Yeah, if
yeah,
you, yes, Kishor. Okay, let me go. If you want to also get a hands-on experience, you can basically have your sources of the schema set up based on your use case, just reach out to us and we can set it up a technical consultation. We do that regularly, and it's a great way to go from I'm interested to yeah, it's step forward and working. And the recording will also be in your inbox shortly. So if there was a part of the demo that you want to revisit, it will all be there.
Yeah, if there are no more questions, yeah, you can always reach out to us on an email, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks everyone, and it was great having you all on the webinar today. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good day.